This is the final episode in our social media series, and this one is so exciting because I am going to teach you 2 simple things you must understand in order to get intentional on what we post, how we react, and what influence social media has on us. So buckle up. Welcome. This is the Strength, Yoga, and Freedom Podcast. My name is Justin. I am just glad that you're here, that you found us. This is the podcast where we use the philosophy of yoga in a practical and everyday way, one small step at a time, to become happier people. You can also follow me on Instagram at JustinRickyYoga. You can also subscribe to our weekly email. You can also find these episodes on our YouTube channel. You can also support the podcast through listener support or buying me a coffee. All of those things are in the description of the episodes, no matter whether you're listening to this podcast here on your podcast platform or here on the YouTube channel. Whichever way, take a look. So your support is greatly appreciated, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. Now, we're going to start wrapping up this series regarding social media and our relationship to it. And the last 3 episodes talked about the practical things we can do to manage our social media feeds, make it fit into our own lives, and setting ourselves up in the evenings with the tips on how to mitigate technology usage. So if you haven't listened to the previous 3 episodes, please go back and start from the episode that aired on April 11th, which was called 3 Ways to Look at Social Media Differently. Now, that episode in particular is important because it really explains satya and truthfulness. That's how we're linking yoga and the yoga philosophy to these practical things regarding social media. And satya, how that gem in yoga is actually teaching us about our own truthfulness and how we have a sense of belonging as human beings, yet we also have a sense of wanting to grow. And growth, unfortunately, is harder than belonging because it's easy to feel like you belong to something. You already do belong to things. You don't even have to try half the time. But when it comes to growth, there is a little bit of effort that's involved in growing. I also want you to stay tuned until almost the end of this episode where I'm going to give you some exciting information about what is coming up in this community as we close out April and move into May of this year. So let's get to today's topic where we're talking about getting intentional with social media. Now, what do I mean by getting intentional? Well, on that April 11th episode that I referred to just a moment ago, we talked about looking at social media differently and as a place to share a passion with others and as a place to maybe inspire. Now, it may not be where you go anymore to see what bathing suit Jennifer has on, to what everyone is doing on spring break, while you may not be able to go to the grocery store this week and get everything because you're dealing with some budget constraints in your family and in your income. It could also be seeing the endless updates about what people feel, what they think, or the struggles or the successes in their relationships. These are the things you may not go to social media to see anymore, or you have now unfollowed those folks who are still posting things like that because you may have changed your relationship with social media after maybe being inspired by the last few episodes of this podcast or other things that have inspired you in your life. You see, when people post things like that, like what they feel or what they think, or their bathing suits or trying to kind of show the bodies off or things like that, or even if they post things like birthday tributes, you've seen when someone's birthday's coming up. And I don't just mean like happy birthday, Susie. I'm talking about long birthday tributes with lots of pictures. You can also see these memorials like that with lots of pictures. And that even includes when someone's anniversary of the death of someone comes around. The parents, maybe a pet, maybe a sibling, maybe the close friends, and you see a lot of remembrances starting to post up. These things can trigger you and they can make you uncomfortable and they can make you unhappy. They may bring up things you don't want to feel because you're trying to heal, right? And that's okay. People can post whatever they want on social media. But I am here to remind all of you who do go on there and think that you have to see all of those things over and over. You don't. When you get intentional. And where does this start? Well, it starts with you. It doesn't start with telling someone else, don't post a remembrance post about your grandpa who died 15 years ago. You don't have to tell someone that. If that triggers you, just unfollow them. It's really none of your business why people post what they post on social media. It is your business to understand why you post what you post on social media. So that leads us into the two things you need to understand when you're getting intentional on social media. Now, these two things tap into your truthfulness. Satya, again, back to the jewel of Satya, tapping into your truth, your being, what you need to do to grow instead of feeling like you have to belong. Make sense? These also may help some of you who, like me, only use your social media to help inspire others. So if you're listening to this podcast and you only use your social media to help inspire others, these two tips can help you because maybe you want to grow your social media into a business or a side hustle and start giving out advice or doing something like this with a podcast or showing your creative skills by selling things or offering wonderful services. So in order to do that, you need to be intentional on social media and you need to get yourself into a place that feels positive and happier instead of listening to all of the other negative nonsense or seeing all the negative nonsense on social media. Because if you're trying to be a positive influence on social media, I'm here to tell you first and foremost, when you look at negative things on there, your relationship with it is going to get skewed again. So let's go to these two things. Let's start with number one. Number one is this. Understand that you are someone who has life experiences that no one else on this earth has. No one. The way you handle things, the things you have been through, the ups and downs, the experiences in your life are all things you can teach other people on social media, and it brings a much different perspective. Do you know why? I'm going to give you an example. When you see anyone on social media who is trying to help people change their lives or get happier or get their lives together or become happier people, whatever, set boundaries, come into self-love, all of the things that maybe you seek out. I mean, you're listening to this podcast, maybe for that reason, or you listen to other podcasts or you watch videos or you look at people's social medias that are doing things like that. The reason we connect with people like that is because they're teaching from their own experiences. When you watch TED Talks, you see how the same subject can be delivered in different ways by different people. Because they, which are one person in almost, how many 8 billion people that are on the planet, 1 out of 8 billion can tell a story differently than anyone else. Tap into that. Tap into what your experiences have taught you. 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to talk about what I can talk about now on this podcast or post what I post on social media. And it's because I'm drawing mainly from my life and the things I have gone through. Now, of course, I also not only rely on the things that I've gone through in my life to help inspire others, but I also research and study the science of how the human brain works, how the human body works, mixed with the philosophy of yoga, and how they have an incredible relationship with each other, because that's what yoga is, the connection between your body and your mind. You may have hit like rock bottom, and maybe you could only have lived off of canned food from the dollar store. So now maybe you go on social media and you teach others to do that now. You see, that's another example in a very simple way of how you can help someone else and use social media intentionally and in a positive way. There are countless stories of how people have gotten intentional about their struggles in order to help others through social media, and then understanding that your life has a way of helping someone else. understanding that and understanding that that's the best place to start looking when you want to change what you post on social media. All right? Now, what I do in my personal life is never on social media anymore unless I feel it's to teach something. Now, once I got intentional and realized my story is different than anyone else's, that's when the light bulb went off. Think about how your story can affect and help someone else be inspired to make a change. You aren't forcing someone to change. You're not directing something at someone so that they'll change. You're inspiring change. And that leads me to number 2, the other point. The other thing you need to understand to get intentional on social media, and that is this. You will not be intentional if you are deliberately directing posts at others or taking posts personally like they are directed at you. Now, I am extremely passionate about this for a variety of reasons, but social media, as I have said in the past episodes regarding social media, it's not a replacement for in-person communication. It's not the place to set boundaries, to have difficult relationship conversations, to talk about your relationship with everybody else in public, because social media is not private, it's public. Or it's also not a place where you passive aggressively post things so that others can pay attention to you. I'm going to give you some examples. Here's the first one. Taking a picture of yourself exercising and putting it on social media. Why are you posting that? Now stop. I'm not saying that this is wrong or bad in any way. In fact, I actually love watching others exercising on social media because it's inspiring for me. But is that why you're posting it? I really want you to get honest with yourself. Like, I really want you to stop and understand, are you posting pictures of you doing physical exercise? Are you doing that because you are trying to influence others? Or are you trying to inspire others? What are you trying to do? So think about that. Here's another example. If you read something and you think, Junebug posted a comment on her page about how she's done with people's attitudes. Is she talking about me? Do I have an attitude? Did I piss her off? Think about that. Are you taking that personally? And here's another example. You say to someone in your life, a close friend, maybe a family member, whoever, you say, oh God, I am never going to that particular store again, XYZ store. I'm never going in there again. They treat me like crap. Never, ever going in there again. And then a week later, you post a picture of yourself in that store. So you are saying one thing and you're doing another, which is a breach of trust. When you say one thing and you do another, you are breaching trust. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You need to think about that. Why are you doing that? I don't have answers to these questions that I'm asking. You have the answers to them. I don't have them. So when you post things on social media, there is a big difference in posting from experiences and posting to get experience or exposure to garner the attention or feel like you belong. If you're taking things personally on social media, you are not being intentional. You're tapping into your ego, and you might also be tapping into some insecurity as well. You see, inspiration is not directed at one person. It's directed at everyone, and then people choose to take the inspiration and they can change or they can just ignore it. That's their choice. It has nothing to do with anything personal. Now, before I recap a few things for you, I want to talk about the next few weeks on this podcast because it's going to be so exciting. As I sit here in my office space in my house, I want to share with you that I have started, after I started this podcast, at the end of the summer 2022, I decided that my house needed a complete renovation. And I don't mean a physical renovation of the walls or, knocking walls down and things like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about each room in my house needed a shift for a variety of reasons. And right now, one of the spaces is this one that I'm in, which is my office space. And as I look around my office space, it is far, far more organized than it was in August of 2022. And do you want to know why? Because I have taken tiny little steps every day to organize this space, not just in here, but every other room in this house. And we are going to talk about spring cleaning in the next two weeks of episodes. And not just cleaning, getting out your duster and dusting or washing the windows. That's not what I'm talking about. I am really talking about some spring fucking cleaning here. And spring cleaning is not just we're going to do it every spring and then we just don't do it. We're going to really talk about, speaking of intentional things like intentional social media posts, we're going to really talk about getting intentional with spring cleaning and what that really means. So stay tuned because it's going to be super fun. Talking about what I've done to get my personal space reorganized and cleaned out and how you can do that too. And not just space, but the space in your mind and the people who are around you and the things you surround yourself with. So let's talk about some recap though, and some key takeaways with regards to all things social media. And here they are. Number one, remember that your social media page is yours and no one else's. It is for you and not for other people. And if you use it to inspire others because you are using your life to draw your teachings from your experiences. If someone else takes it personally, that's their problem. That's number one. Number two, it can be easier to belong rather than grow. That's why you need to choose who your friends are on social media. You get to choose who you follow on social media. You get to choose where you comment or where you like, or if you comment on anything. You get to choose. Number three, social media can be a beautiful place to belong with groups that you have similar interests in. And let me tell you what a difference it is to go on there and just see those groups. When I go on social media now, I see nothing but things that make me feel happy. Unless it's an advertisement, of course, then I just hit I don't want to see ads like this anymore. You can hit that button too. But I love to go on there and see things that are interesting to me. Me personally. I don't like to go on there and see people telling me what restaurants they're eating at, what they had for breakfast, what their feelings are, what their relationship back and forth fight. I don't want to see any of that stuff. It's triggering to me. So instead of me wandering around to everybody and telling them to stop posting all that stuff on social media, I just unfollow or unfriend. And I fill my social media up with the things that make me feel happy. And so when you're getting ready to inspire others on social media and show your creative side, it is so important to tap into your life experiences and do what makes you feel the best to inspire and not to garner attention. Those are different things. This platform of social media can help you grow, and you can get rid of the triggers around it by taking control. So until next time, when we begin our spring cleaning series, I hope that you find some love and some peace and some happiness today, and you will find it. You just have to pay attention to it because it's right there. And when you do find it today, enjoy it because you deserve it. See you next time.